Damn it, Vivian. You've always had the spotlight, and the nerve to mock me with it. I'm Eleanor Green, the sister everyone forgot, the ghost behind an $80 million empire. And now? My sister just applied to work for me, without knowing I'm the one who signs her paycheck. Let's see how long the silence lasts. I sat in my usual corner at the little brunch cafe our family had gone to for years. The smell of roasted coffee beans and syrup-drenched waffles filled the air. The same yellow striped curtains filtered the morning sun, casting soft lines across the table. Everything looked the same. Except, of course, it never really did, not to me. The coffee in front of me had gone cold. I kept stirring it, slowly, mindlessly. An old habit, a comfort. Maybe I was just trying to ground myself, my fingers curled around the spoon, not for warmth but for composure. Across the table, laughter rang out, sharp and sure of itself. Vivian. My sister sat with her legs crossed, sunlight catching the diamond ring on her hand, her latest engagement. Her voice carried through the room like it always did, impossible to ignore. "You're still doing that? Whatever it is?" she asked, not even looking at me, but clearly talking about me. "Your old job was a snooze fest, and now you're what, still freelancing or something? Honestly, it's kind of hilarious that someone in their 30s still doesn't have a real job." She laughed, head tilted slightly back. No one else joined in. I didn't flinch, just pressed my lips together and kept stirring. Do they really still think I haven't figured things out? Or do they just prefer to believe that I haven't? My mother cleared her throat awkwardly. "Vivian, don't be like that." Vivian just shrugged, unbothered. To her, silence always meant surrender. I could hear it in her voice, that smug certainty that my quietness proved her right. My father, ever the peacemaker, turned to his plate. "These eggs Benedict are a bit salty, huh?" he said, trying to steer the moment away, but her smirk lingered like smoke after fireworks, waiting for a spark. Any spark. I gave her nothing. I'd always been the quiet one, the observer. That role used to feel like a limitation, until I realized silence wasn't absence. It was space, and in that space I had built an entire world no one in this room could imagine. I glanced out the window. People walked by in coats and scarves, couples holding hands, a man walking his dog. All of them unknowingly passing by a woman who had co-founded an $80 million tech company, who had architected systems used by major banks, hospitals, and government agencies. And no one, especially not Vivian, had any idea, because I never wanted the spotlight, because I'd learned early on it never really belonged to me. I remember when I first realized that some of the most meaningful work is done behind the curtain. I was 27, sitting beside Sam, my best friend from college, typing out the first lines of code for the data analytics engine that would become DataLoom. Back then it was just 2 laptops, a shared dream, and takeout meals we couldn't afford. Now I'm 33. I hold 49% of a company valued at over $80 million. My name is on every legal agreement, every system spec, every funding contract. Just not on the website. Not even Vivian knows. She sipped her mimosa loudly and tossed her hair back. "It's fine though," she added, her voice a pitch higher. "I'm targeting something new now. A company called DataLoom. Ever heard of it? They're hiring." My heart jumped, just slightly, enough to feel it, not fear. Something else, something sharper. Hope? Panic? I looked up at her for just a second, then back down again, careful not to let the flicker in my eyes give anything away. She kept going. "I already applied. If they bring me in, I'll fix their budget better than anyone they've got. If they pass, their loss." I bit the inside of my cheek to stop a laugh. Would she still say that if she knew who signs the budget she'd be working on? Would she still talk down to me if she knew it was me who built the very company she wants to join? And right there, as her voice filled the room once again, something stirred in me, not anger, not pride, a strange, quiet swirl of worry, and the smallest ripple of joy. Could this be the beginning of something new between us? After brunch, I walked home alone. Seattle's sky was brushed with pale gray, that kind of quiet cloud cover that made the world feel smaller, more personal. My boots clicked against the sidewalk, echoing soft and steady, the same way my thoughts echoed inside my chest. After brunch, I walked home alone. Seattle's sky was brushed with pale gray, that kind of quiet cloud cover that made the world feel smaller, more personal. My boots clicked against the sidewalk, echoing soft and steady. The same way my thoughts echoed inside my chest. What if she's good at it? What if she walks into Dataloom and actually thrives? Would that make everything better or more complicated? I didn't know. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window, hands curled around a fresh cup of tea. This one was warm, steaming, alive. She'd applied to Dataloom, my Dataloom. I still hadn't told Sam. For years we had built a system of quiet trust. He was the face, I was the architecture. I stayed in the shadows because I wanted to, because I believed the work mattered more than the credit. But this was personal. That night, I logged into the internal system. I had designed most of the interface myself. Clean, efficient, intuitive. My digital sanctuary. One new file appeared in the HR queue. Vivian Green. My fingers hesitated over the mouse. Her photo was professional. She wore a beige blazer, her hair swept to one side, a tight-lipped smile that looked almost forced, like she wasn't quite sure what the camera wanted from her, or what she wanted from it. I opened the file. Her experience was solid. Despite the downfall of her last firm, she had knowledge, charm, and a persuasive flair that had earned her a recommend for interview from the internal reviewer. I exhaled slowly. My heart was doing strange things again, tightening, then loosening, like it couldn't decide whether to brace or to open. I clicked the 3 dots in the corner of the application. A drop-down menu appeared. Approve, decline, flag. I hovered, then clicked approve. It felt like flipping a switch and lighting a candle at the same time. The next few days moved quietly. Vivian didn't know anything yet. Not about me, not about the company's full truth, and I didn't tell her. I couldn't. Not yet. At work, I stayed in the background like always. My title was just Senior Technical Advisor on paper. Only Sam and a select few knew what it really meant. The next few days moved quietly. Vivian didn't know anything yet. Not about me, not about the company's full truth. And I didn't tell her. I couldn't. Not yet. At work, I stayed in the background like always. My title was just Senior Technical Advisor on paper. Only Sam and a select few knew what it really meant. For now, let's see who she becomes when there's no one clapping. There was a pause. Sam understood. The first week, I didn't see her. I came in late, like always, after hours when the building was empty, when the lights hummed low and the servers clicked softly in their enclosures. The way I liked it. But on the 6th day, I turned on the internal camera feed. Just curiosity, I told myself. She stood in the kitchen on the 9th floor, pouring coffee, eyes scanning the digital bulletin board. I saw the way her expression shifted, recognition, then confusion. "This is the company that hired me," she said to someone near her. "Word is, one of the founders is basically a ghost. Might not even be real." I nearly laughed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed watching the ceiling turn a deeper shade of gray as morning approached. What will she say if she finds out? Will she be proud, angry, embarrassed? The strange mix of anxiety and quiet satisfaction was beginning to eat at me. I had power, yes, but I didn't want to wield it like a sword. I just wanted her to see me, truly see me. Not as the sister she used to dismiss, but as the woman I had become when no one was looking. I was 12 the first time I realized I didn't need the spotlight to exist. It was my birthday. I remember the frosting on the cake. Soft lilac swirls, the candles lined up like little hopes waiting to be acknowledged. Everyone had gathered around me, singing, clapping. I should have been happy. But just as I leaned forward to blow out the candles, Vivian burst into the living room, holding up a giant gold trophy. "I won," she cried. "State dance competition. First place." Everyone turned to her. My mother gasped in delight, arms already wide open. "Our baby girl is a star!" The song died halfway through the last birthday to you. No one noticed the candles still flickering. I didn't blow them out. I just sat down, quietly picked up my gifts, and carried them upstairs. Later that night, while everyone celebrated Vivian's victory, I opened my old laptop, the one Dad gave me a year earlier after upgrading his own. The keys were faded, the trackpad glitchy. But to me, it was magic. That night, I started building my first data model, using numbers from our school lunch menus to predict weekly food shortages. It was crude, messy, kind of silly, but it worked. And no one clapped, no one had to. My love for systems, for patterns, for things that made sense in a chaotic world, started there. While Vivian danced, I disassembled broken toys just to understand how the gears turned. While she designed costumes, I tweaked lines of code until a minigame ran smoother. My mom used to say, Eleanor can sit still for hours, you'd think she vanished if not for the typing. Dad would joke, we've got a firework and a flashlight in this house. Guess who's who? No guessing needed. Vivian lit up the sky. I lit up the inside of things. When we got older, the distance widened. Vivian got into art school. She appeared in small-town fashion shows, even had a 2-page feature in a local magazine once. The whole family gathered to cut the article out and frame it. I got accepted into a top tech institute. No one remembered the name. They didn't forget out of malice. They were just busy planning Vivian's fashion launch party. I told myself it didn't matter. I had code. I had purpose. But sometimes late at night, I'd stare at my muted graduation photo and wonder, is it really possible to love your family and still feel completely unseen by them? When Sam and I started Dataloom, we had nothing but 2 hand-me-down laptops and borrowed internet from a nearby bookstore. We didn't chase fame, we chased functionality. Sam was the one in meetings, pitching our product with a grin. I was the one behind the screen, debugging into the night. We built a predictive analytics system flexible enough to serve banks, hospitals, and even government risk platforms. In year 2, we signed our first contract with a major bank. In year 3, we hit $83 million in valuation. My name wasn't on the press releases, but it was on the internal architecture documents, the legal agreements, and the line in the code that said system root.author equals E Green. I never felt the need to correct anyone when they assumed Sam was the sole founder, because this silence wasn't surrender. It was space. And I knew how to build in space, until now. Now, Vivian was about to walk into that space, into the system I built, the reports I approved, the logic I had layered line by line. Would she still recognize me? Would she want to if she did? I wasn't angry. Not really. But I had questions, and only time could answer them. Vivian's first day came and went without ceremony. I didn't show up to the office. I never did before 6, and that day was no different. She stepped into Dataloom through the wide glass doors, past the digital wall of project briefs and partner logos, all designed by me, and she never knew. But I watched. Through the internal system cameras, most of which I had quietly embedded into the building's network for operational efficiency, security, and, if I'm honest, curiosity. I caught glimpses. Not spying, not quite. Just observing, like always. She looked different, less performative. A bit nervous, even. She smiled too much, nodded too often, clutched her tote bag a little too tightly, like someone trying to prove they belonged. I knew that feeling. I had worn it like a second skin in every room that underestimated me. Sam texted me that evening. She's off to a decent start, confident but careful. You sure you want to stay in the dark? For now, I typed back. Why? I stared at the blinking cursor, then replied, because people act differently when they think no one's watching. Vivian settled quickly. Her skills were sharp, at least on the surface. She could read a budget sheet in minutes, identify overspending with a single glance, and speak with the kind of polished ease that managers liked. I let her move, let her grow, quietly, invisibly, until she stumbled. It was week 3 when it happened. She was reviewing a quarterly marketing budget, one that required cross-departmental approval, and she noticed a name. Mine, at the bottom of the sheet beside the digital sign-off tag, Eleanor Green NS approval. She blinked, paused, then blinked again. Who's this NS person? She asked a colleague nearby, casual but tight-lipped. The young analyst shrugged. Some senior exec, I think, or like some hidden partner. No one really knows, kinda ghosty. They approve everything though. Vivian raised an eyebrow. Ghosty how? Like, I've never met them, but their name's on everything big. She laughed it off. Must be a legal figurehead or something. Companies do that. But she didn't laugh inside. I could see it, that tightening behind her smile, that shift in posture. She knew something didn't line up, but the edges weren't sharp enough to cut through yet. That night my phone buzzed, a system notification. Internal document access request. Vivian Green Budget Archive Q1 Core Approval Logs. My hand hovered over the screen. She's searching for me. She was opening files I'd signed months ago, notes with my full name, project proposals I'd marked up in quiet, post-midnight reviews, even the AI ethics white paper I had written under initials only. The digital trail was faint, but not invisible. I imagined her sitting at her desk, fingers frozen on the mouse, eyes wide as each file confirmed what the last hinted at. Could it really be Eleanor? The sister she once mocked for being too quiet, too passive, too behind the scenes. I stayed up that night. Not writing code, just thinking. About her. About me. About everything that had gone unsaid. Was this what I had been waiting for? This slow, unfolding moment? Less like thunder, more like a ripple? I wasn't sure. But I knew something had shifted. Not just in her, in me too. The next day, I came into the office earlier than I had in years. There was a strange stillness in the building. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly. Somewhere in the distance a printer coughed to life. And then I heard them. Heels. Sharp even. Fast. I turned the corner just as she did. Vivian stopped. Her eyes locked onto mine like a pin in fabric. Tight, direct, a little shaken. "Eleanor?" she asked slowly. I nodded. She blinked. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer right away. Then, "I have access." She narrowed her eyes. "Only senior management does." I smiled gently. "I know." And then before she could say more, Sam stepped out from a side room holding a folder. "Hey Eleanor," he said naturally. "Can you take a look at the new deployment strategy? Needs your sign-off by Friday." He handed me the file. Vivian stood frozen. No one said a word, but in her silence something cracked, and in mine something settled. The next morning it rained, not the hard, fast kind. Just a steady drizzle, soft like secrets, clinging to windows, collecting in quiet puddles on the edge of sidewalks. I stood in the elevator alone, watching the floor numbers light up one by one. My heart was beating louder than the rain. She knows. I had seen it in her face the day before. Not shock exactly, not yet, but suspicion. The kind that grows quietly, like a seed cracked open by the tiniest hint of light. When I reached the 10th floor, I didn't go to my office. I walked straight to the conference room, the one no one ever used before noon, and opened the drawer where I kept personal files, old sketches, and a walnut box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were pieces of a life no one had asked about. My first pitch deck, a signed contract from our first client, a screenshot of a video call with Sam from our garage office days, a copy of our founding document, and there, at the bottom of it all, a single-page print. Co-founders: Samuel Fletcher, CEO, Eleanor Green, Chief Technical Architect. I hadn't looked at it in a long time. My name, typed in simple black font, meant nothing to most people, but to me it held the weight of every sleepless night, every piece of code I had written, every time I had been doubted, even by my own blood. That afternoon my phone buzzed. System alert, internal access request, Vivian Green, Dataloom founding records. I didn't move, just stared at the screen as the notification pulsed. She had found it. I pictured her sitting at her desk, the soft blue of the monitor washing over her face. She would be leaning forward, mouth slightly open, eyes frozen. Her hands would stop moving, and she would read it. Again, and again, and again. Eleanor Green, me. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I was walking through the shared pantry after a late meeting. Most employees had already left. The air smelled like burned coffee and lemon-scented counter spray. And then I saw her. Vivian stood alone near the tea carafe, one hand clutching a folded paper. The page, I was sure. Her back was stiff, her jaw tense. When she turned and saw me, she didn't look angry. She looked lost and a little afraid. "You're the co-founder," she said, voice tight. I nodded, quietly. Vivian stood alone near the tea carafe, one hand clutching a folded paper, the page, I was sure. Her back was stiff, her jaw tense. When she turned and saw me, she didn't look angry. She looked lost and a little afraid. "You're the co-founder," she said, voice tight. I nodded, quietly. She laughed. But it wasn't a bitter laugh, not anymore. It was cracked, uncertain, heavy with irony. "I used to think you were just floating," she said, "living off everyone's grace. You never said anything." "No," I replied, "I didn't." "Why?" I looked at her. Really looked. The same girl who once stood in my birthday candles holding a trophy now stood holding proof of everything she had missed about me. "Because I didn't need to prove anything," I answered. "Not to you, not to anyone. I just needed to build something that mattered." Vivian was quiet then. Her eyes dropped to the paper in her hand, then rose again. For a moment there was something in them I hadn't seen in years. Not superiority, not sarcasm, just reflection. I pulled a sheet from my folder and held it out. "We're launching an initiative next month. Tech education for underserved communities. I think you'd be great for the budgeting side." She didn't take it. Not yet. But she looked at it, long and hard. Then at me. I need to think." she said finally. I nodded. Take your time. And I left her there, standing in the silence I used to live in, the space where I had grown, where I had found myself. But this time it wasn't cold. It wasn't empty. It was beginning to feel like understanding. She didn't reply the next day, or the day after that. There was no email, no knock on my office door, no late-night text asking for clarity or closure. But I noticed the change. It wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It arrived in the smallest shifts. Vivian stopped slouching in meetings. She listened more. Spoke less. Her questions became sharper, not just smart but curious, not to impress but to understand, and when she didn't agree with someone, she didn't roll her eyes or push back with flair. She paused, asked why, and then nodded, even if the answer didn't favor her. I had seen her perform confidence before. This was something else. It was quiet, real. She passed me once in the hallway. I expected avoidance, a quick turn of the head, maybe even awkward tension. But she met my eyes. She didn't smile, she didn't speak. She just looked, really looked like she was seeing me for the first time. And in that look I saw neither guilt nor pride. I saw respect, and that was enough. A few days later I got a message from HR, subject, new internal initiative proposal. Proposed by Vivian Green. Title, Touch the Screen, Touch the Future. Purpose, a mentorship and sponsorship program for junior female employees in tech roles. Series of career workshops, panels, and access to department heads, targeting interns from underserved backgrounds. Budget request reasonable, well-planned, backed with data. At the bottom, in small italic text, inspired by the quiet mission of Eleanor Green. I stared at that line for a long time. Not because I needed the credit, but because it meant she saw something now that she never saw before. That silence is not absence. That humility is not weakness. That building, quietly, is sometimes louder than anything else. That evening I stepped into the pantry. She was pouring hot water into a carafe. She turned when she saw me, startled. But she didn't freeze. Didn't flinch. Just looked. I was about to pass by with a polite nod when she spoke. Voice soft but sure. The pen is beautiful, and the notebook, she added, pausing. I've already written a few pages. I turned back. I'm glad you liked it. She nodded once. Her eyes were different now, less guarded. No mask, no game. I don't think I ever really understood you, she admitted. Or maybe I just never tried. I didn't say anything, I didn't need to. There's something I want to say, she continued. Her tone wasn't dramatic. It was careful, intentional. You didn't have to give me a chance, but you did, and you never threw any of it in my face. That says more about you than anything I ever assumed. Her voice cracked, just slightly. She cleared her throat. For a second I saw the girl who used to spin in the living room, demanding everyone's attention. But I also saw the woman she was becoming. One who was learning to be still, long enough to hear someone else's heartbeat. I smiled, not out of victory, not out of pride, just peace. You don't owe me anything, Vivian, I said. We don't need to balance the past, we just need to move forward. She looked at me like she didn't quite believe it, but wanted to. We stood there for a moment, not as co-workers, not as founder and analyst, not even as sisters with a tangled past. Just two people who had finally stopped talking at each other and had started listening. And maybe that was the beginning of everything we never had. The 5th anniversary gala of Dataloom arrived quietly. No fanfare, no confetti, just a name card in my inbox and a soft ping from Sam. You're not skipping this one. I had tried, briefly, to think of a way to stay out of sight as I always had, to slip behind the curtain again and let the moment pass without claiming it. But that night, standing in the guest dressing room, I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. Not as the tech girl with quiet hands and a fast mind, not as the forgotten sister, not as the faceless co-founder. Just Eleanor. My dress was simple, black, clean lines, soft silk that caught the light but didn't shout. My hair was tied back, my lips touched with a soft rose hue. I didn't want to dazzle, I just didn't want to hide. Sam knocked gently. Ready? I exhaled. Not really, he smiled. You're not stepping out, you're stepping up. We walked onto the stage from the wings, lights dimmed, music fading. The MC cleared his throat. Please welcome the co-founders of Dataloom, Samuel Fletcher and Eleanor Green. Applause erupted, loud, sincere. It didn't feel overwhelming, it felt warm, earned. I stepped into the light for the first time, not behind someone, not below anyone, but beside. The crowd shimmered before me in suits and dresses, champagne glasses catching reflections like tiny mirrors. And at the back, standing by a marble column, was Vivian. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't clapping, she was just there, holding her glass, untouched. Her eyes fixed on me, not with judgment, not even with shock, with something harder to name, something like awe. Sam spoke first. He told the story we'd lived, from his mom's garage to enterprise contracts, from 2 a.m. server crashes to late-night coffee-fueled victories. When he passed the mic to me, the room went still. I cleared my throat. "Hi, I'm Eleanor Green," I said, and a wave of laughter swept gently through the room. Not mocking, just surprised, kind. "I know some of you didn't believe I existed. That's okay. I wasn't trying to be mysterious. I was just working." Another ripple of warmth. "I don't speak often, but today I felt it was time. Not for praise, just for presence. Because this company was built on 2 things. Trust, and the belief that what's done quietly can still echo loudly." I didn't say more. I didn't need to. Later, as guests scattered for drinks and photos, I slipped toward the corner of the room. Familiar, safe. But Vivian found me. Her heels clicked softly against the marble, her white blouse catching the gold of the chandeliers. She walked up to me slowly, a little unsure, eyes shadowed but open. "You were incredible up there," she said, voice low. "Thanks." She looked away, then back again. "I left early that day. When I saw your name on the founding papers, I couldn't process it. Couldn't believe I'd spent years dismissing someone I didn't even bother to understand." I didn't interrupt. She reached into her purse, then paused. "I don't have some grand apology, but I do have this." She handed me a folded note. Inside was a line written in her handwriting. Slanted, imperfect, real. "You were never in my shadow. I was just too blind to see your light." I folded the note slowly, slipped it into my clutch. "You don't need to make up for anything," I said. "You just have to keep showing up." Vivian nodded. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. As we stood there, the music swelled in the background, and I realized something. We didn't need to say it all. We just needed to mean what little we did say. The next Sunday, we gathered for brunch again. Same cafe, same long table by the window, same scent of butter and roasted beans in the air, but something was different. It wasn't the place. It was us. Vivian arrived 5 minutes late, not with loud apologies or a grand entrance, just a small nod and a quiet "hey." She wore a simple white blouse. No makeup, no glittering rings, just herself. She walked toward me slowly, unsure. Our eyes met. She didn't smile, I didn't either, but we nodded, and somehow that was enough. The table chatter rolled on. Mom talked about her tulips. Dad recited a story about his old motorcycle. Vivian listened. She didn't dominate the conversation. She didn't try to steer it. And when Uncle Henry leaned in toward me with his usual chuckle and said, "So Eleanor, you still doing that little freelance thing from home? Or just typing up random computer codes all day?" Before I could answer, Vivian set down her coffee and spoke. Her voice was calm, but clear. "Uncle, Eleanor is the smartest person I know. Without her, I wouldn't even have a job at Dataloom. She co-founded it. She's the reason the company exists." The table fell silent. Uncle Henry blinked. "Wait, co-founded?" My mother's fork paused midair. Dad tilted his head. Aunt Laura raised an eyebrow. Vivian didn't waver. "Yes," she said. "She built the system that supports the entire company. She never told anyone because that's who she is. She doesn't need attention, but that doesn't mean she hasn't earned it." I didn't speak. I just looked at her. And in that look, I saw something I never thought I'd see. Not apology, not guilt. Just quiet gratitude and respect. My mom reached over and gently squeezed my hand. I met her eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt something click into place. Something unspoken, but real. Later, after the meal, as the group slowly filtered out, Vivian stepped beside me at the door. She was holding her jacket, the wind playing lightly in her hair. "You don't have to forgive me," she said softly, "but I promise I'll never be the same person again."